Joining us from UConn, head coach Geno Auriemma, student athletes Sarah Strong and AZ Fudd. We'll start off with a statement from Coach.
We were talking in the locker room about it's it's the same formula every time we play. If we're locked in defensively, if we have a game plan and we stick to it and do with the things that we think we're pretty good at, then we just see how many shots we make and see where that takes us. So, obviously we played well today defensively, and obviously we made a ton of shots today. Sometimes these games don't go that way, but today's did, and see if we got one more in us on Monday.
We'll take questions for the student athletes first. Please wait for the microphone and state your name and affiliation before your question. First question. We can go to Maggie.
Maggie Benoni, CT Insider. AZ, you tied your
Very enlightening.
We'll take questions for Coach.
Riveting.
Front row left. Microphone's on its way.
Riveting. Sarah Strong.
Richard Moore in USA Today. Your guard play, specifically Caitlin and Paige, what did you see? It looked for me like it was a lot of unselfish basketball coming out of the backcourt.
Yeah. A lot of times things are, not a lot of times, most of the time, things are dictated by the style of play that the other team kind of makes you play, So the pressure that they like to put, that's who they are. That's how they like to play. So they're not going to change just because it's the NCAA tournament. So you go into the game knowing that this is how it's going to be, and that if you complete a couple passes early in the possession, you're going to get a lot of opportunities on the back end, and that's pretty much what happened. It's like every time we broke their pressure, there was a wide open opportunity down the other end, and I thought our guards shot the ball exceptionally well, and when you play a team that's willing to give you a lot of those because they think they're going to take more of them and make more of them, it's easy if you go out there and miss them all, then it plays right into the way they want to play. But if you make a bunch like we did today, and you're not going to be able to do that if people aren't unselfish, and that's the way you have to play if you play at Connecticut. It's not about you all the time. Some nights it is, some nights it's not. So what do we have? 29 assists on 40 baskets. I mean, that's pretty good.
Go to Maggie, third row on the right.
Maggie Benoni, CT Insider. Kind of what AZ said, she's worked so hard all around, on her game, on all aspects. I know this is her first time back in the tournament in 2 years, but do you feel like this is the strongest and kind of most well-rounded she's looked since her return this year?
Yeah, it's been a while for sure that we've been able to have somewhat of a full complement of players, and especially when you're missing really key pieces. And a lot of times when kids haven't played and then you throw them out there, they put a lot of pressure on themselves to make up for, 2 years of missing NCAA tournaments and try to get it all back in one night. For me, it's, putting AZ in a position where she likes being in and letting her do what she does best, Again, play a team that plays like they played today. Those opportunities come more frequently. So maybe it was the best way to start her comeback in the NCAA tournament. I think it'll be drastically different Monday night. Those opportunities won't come as easy. It doesn't mean they won't be there, but they won't come as easy. So it's great that she's been able to experience that kind of confidence this early in the tournament, which is hopefully carries over to the next game.
We'll stay right there, third row, Alexa.
Kind of off that note, Geno, where have you seen kind of AZ develop more on that kind of the mental side of things throughout the season, just given everything that she went through, even having to sit out a few games with the knee tweak and coming back? Have you seen that confidence really start to build and blossom, especially after a game like today?
That's always the biggest question with not just AZ, but a lot of players, is they're so married to their last couple possessions, and they can't shake them sometimes. So somebody makes 2 straight threes, basket looks as big as a swimming pool, right? They miss their first 2, and they start to question whatever they're doing. And I think as you get older and you have to grow up a little bit and you have to mature, and I think that's been part of the process for AZ, and I think she did the same thing earlier this season. I think she started 2 for 10 and then came out and made all of them. So that's a sign of growth. You know, it's a sign of taking each possession as it comes and not letting it be tied into the previous one. And I also think that the more you do other than shoot the ball, the better success you have shooting it. Because when all you do is just shoot and you don't do anything else, that's always on your mind and you're obsessed with it. And if it doesn't go your way, you make things worse. But, you know, you get a couple blocks, you get 7 steals. I mean, I think she tied her career high in rebounds. How many she have? 1. Yeah, that's a career high for her, I think. So we're not quite ready to put the, you know, most all-around player in the history of UConn next to her name just quite yet. But we're working on it. We're working on it.
We'll stay in that third row with Emily.
Emily Adams, Hartford Current. Coach, that whole first half just kind of seemed like everything was working for you guys. Could you tell coming into this game that they had that kind of energy coming out? Just kind of what clicked so well, did you feel like?
You know, we probably talked about this. This is the only time in the year where you have 2 weeks off, right? Last time we played was 2 weeks ago. Well, Monday night's game will be 2 weeks since we played that game. You never have that much time off. And you have no idea how it's going to, and believe me, there were some god-awful practices during those 2 weeks. I mean, awful. And I think that's their way of saying, Coach, we just want to play, you know? And so when game time does roll around, there's been a lot of pent-up, you know, frustration and waiting, and, you know, so you know it's going to come out. I could see it yesterday at practice, shoot around today. There's a different look, a different vibe when game time is right here, right now. Now, you don't know whether that's going to translate into how many shots you make. Today, fortunately, it did. It did.
Question right here, second row on the left.
Hey, Coach. Azar Johnson from MV Media. When you, to piggyback off what you just said, when you have a game like this, I mean, it seemed like it was the perfect game as far as, like, defense, set the tone. You scored off the defense, the turnovers. Would you call this like a perfect game, you know, a 10? I mean, is there anything that you could see in this game that you could go back and say, maybe I'm concerned about this come Monday night?
Yeah, as AZ said, there's always something, you know, when you go and you pick the film apart. You don't necessarily take it as everything we did today was a perfect 10, because there's enough things in there that we're not, but they're masked because of the talent differential. Okay, so we played today and we didn't beat the Lakers today. No disrespect to Arkansas State, the talent gap is huge. So you should expect to play really, really well. Now, no one deserves to shoot 70% or whatever we shot in the first half, but you do have to play at a whole higher level than the team you're playing against, just because the talent is just so great. Now, even though the talent gap is great, you still have to make sure that you play. So in terms of what was our effort like, what was our execution like, you know, did we make good decisions more times than we made bad decisions? Yeah, all those things you're gonna look at it and go, you know, given the kind of game that it was and who our opponent was, yeah, everything that should have been done pretty close was done that way, you know. On our coach's mind, we're looking at things going, okay, let's say Monday night. Will that same action they just did, will that carry over to Monday? Because if we do it just like that on Monday, yes. That won't. Will that carry over? No. If we do that Monday night, that ain't going to work. It only worked tonight because of circumstances. So that's how we have to think as coaches. And that's what makes me always, I don't want to say unhappy, but various degrees of misery, because you're always trying to interpret, where will this, if we win Monday night, will this next weekend, if we're fortunate enough to play next weekend, how much of this stuff that if we do it exactly the way we did it is going to help us win that game? 50%, 60%? Who knows? If you do 10 things and you know they only work because the opponent couldn't match it. But now what happens when the opponent can? So that's how you judge, how did we play? You know, it's delicate, and the players don't understand it. They just go, hey, look, coach, we won by a lot, so it was great, wasn't it? Yeah. I mean, I'm happy for them, but, you know, got to be realistic too.
We have time for one more. Front row left.
Richard Moore in USA Today. I have to ask about the 4- and 5-person substitutions. What do the coaching adjustments look like when facing such unorthodox subbing patterns from your opponent?
We were lucky we played Tennessee this year, and they employed kind of the same thing. And one of the things we talked about is don't foul. Because if they don't get to the free throw line, the clock doesn't stop, they can't sub. Don't turn the ball over a lot. Again, less opportunities to sub. So it's tough on your matchups, right? Who's got who? But we switch a lot, you know, on defense, so they're constantly guarding somebody different anyway. But yeah, it's very unusual, and it's a little bit disconcerting, a little bit, you know, like, all right, who's got who? And this, maybe the second group plays completely different than the first group. Who knows? You know, so you're always wondering about that. One thing I have to say before we leave, though, I think, you know, I'm not sure if this was Arkansas State's. You might know. Is this their first NCAA tournament bid?
Yes.
First ever, right? Okay. So I think it was unfortunate that they stayed, you know, 45 minutes away from here. And that's not a UConn thing. That's just the way it played out. And I wanted to say that, you know, in the future, I would hope that we would be able to find them. And there's a lot of good places around here. So in the future, I would hope that when someone goes to the NCAA tournament, whether it's their first time or 101st time, that they have the kind of experience, you know, because it makes it look like there's only 2 hotels in all of, you know, Eastern Connecticut, and that's not the case. So whatever the criteria is or whatever we need, I think those kids deserve a little better than that. And hopefully they still enjoyed it. But that's a problem for the 8 teams that are going to regionals too. Because when you have 8 teams in one place, it's not easy to find equitable accommodations for all 8 teams, unless you're going to Chicago, New York, for, you know, a big city like that. So that's always on my mind as a coach. How do you make the experience, you know, great? If you're UConn, nobody gives a damn. These guys go to the Final Four, they'll sleep on the floor. They don't give a damn. They've had all the experiences that they've ever dreamed of. But, you know, team gets to the NCAA tournament for the first time. It shouldn't be like a regular season game someplace. It should be pretty special. So hopefully they enjoyed the trip, and, you know, it was a great experience for them. So that's my spiel.
Coach, thanks for your time.
All right, guys.